Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. No camera today. It's been a long day, it's been a very stressful day, and I'm tired. I don't feel like being on camera. But, as I said in my previous video, I was asked by, I think it's Forever Twilight on Twitter, to review and give my reaction to the Showtime trailer. Everything's gonna be all white. 2022. I've watched it. Many people have watched it, and as you can probably see on the sidebar here, since I'm on my YouTube account, right, there are many people who have had negative reactions to it, right? You see Anthony Bryan Logan, you see, looks like Louder with Crowder, right? I've seen reactions from Gothics, I've seen reactions from Jeremy of Geeks and Gamers, and various others. I think I've seen Ruined Leon, I know he did a video on it. So the general consensus is that this is, offensive cringe, right? And having watched it myself twice now, I agree. But first I'm going to play it without comment, and then I'll go over it again and give my comments on it. But suffice it to say, this is honestly hard for me to sit through, because it's one of those things, it's like, the longer it plays, the angrier I get. So, here we go. Everything is gonna be all white.
I think what annoys me most about white people is when they pretend like they're the victim. What's also annoying is when they, when they kill us.
What is fragile about whiteness when everything has been constructed around it?
Every part of who I am has been distorted or criminalized.
It's really just a bunch of white lies.
We're storming the Capitol! You're not patriots, you're ridiculous.
One of the definitions of American whiteness is ignorance.
White people, we are not your problem. You are.
Should white people today feel any responsibility for slavery?
Hell yeah.
White Jesus or black Jesus?
Jesus was not white. Think of geography. Ain't no way Jesus walked around with blonde hair and blue eyes.
White culture fears the end of the world. For us as Native people, the end of the world already happened like multiple times.
Symbols and monuments, these are mementos of racism.
Bring us after that. Put up a TCBY yogurt or something. Everybody can get behind.
The truth has to be told about history.
We have to make sure that these stories are told from our perspective.
There's always hope, you know what I'm saying? We don't give up.
It's about obliterating systemic and institutionalized racism.
This is a wild place, y'all. It's a wild place. I know Harriet and Frederick be up there just like, what is they gonna do?
And so, there it is, right? This, in my opinion, incredibly insulting, anti-white, racist, in my opinion, trailer. So now I'm going to play it back, and I'm going to respond to various elements of it. So. Warning, trailer may offend white people. It also may offend anybody with a decent modicum of sense and knowledge of American history. Basically, it will offend anybody who does not fall into this victim grievance narrative that this trailer tries to portray. If you think black people are more than just, a community of, people who cry and blame the white man for all their problems, if you believe that black people are better than that or can be better than that, then this trailer is going to trigger you.
I think what annoys me most about white people is when they pretend like they're the victim.
So what annoys her, I have no idea who the hell this chick is, and I don't care. But what annoys her is when white people pretend that they're hurt or that they have problems. Honey, I sincerely hope that you don't have any white friends, because apparently you would be completely unsympathetic to their struggle, whether it be individually or as a group. And I love how he says white people as if all white or European groups are the same, because the Italians and the French and the Irish and the English and all these other groups that were once immigrant communities in America, they all were just openly accepted. It's not like we have, racist or offensive terms for those groups, right? Like, I'm certain that if you call an Italian person a Guido, or if you call an Irish person a Mick, they'll be just fine with it. That's, no, they'll be totally okay with it. And as for, white people having problems, right? Oh, because, white people have never experienced poverty. They've never, experienced the hardships of life, right? I mean, it's not like back in the slavery days that actually one of the worst things you could be was a poor white boy. And you were actually seen as lesser in some ways even than a slave, because at least a slave had a home, right? Slave wasn't viewed as human, but at least a slave, had a home, got regular food and whatnot usually, right? But if you were a poor white boy, it's like, you're not a slave. So like, why the hell are you actually in a worse position than they are? But yeah, I mean, whites have never known struggle. Whites have never had it hard in America. Nope, never at all. Right? All those poor people on the streets, right? All those individuals, in like methadone clinics or other, sort of drug addiction issues or social issues. Nope, has never happened. Never happened. It's all a figment of your imagination.
What's also annoying is when they, when they kill us.
Yes, honey, I'm well aware of the fact that, yeah, there is an issue with police officers and policing of black and brown communities and excessive use of force. That is indeed a problem, has been a problem, especially in large liberal cities like New York for a very long time. However, your laughing indifference, right? And they go, oh, when the white people kill us, right? As if all whites collectively are looking to just kill black people, right? Whatever helps you sleep at night, honey, whatever helps you sleep at night. It must be incredibly sad to live a life where all you have is grievances against the world. And I'm someone who makes videos complaining about everything.
What is fragile about whiteness when everything has been constructed around it?
If everything has been constructed around whiteness, then why are there still white people who struggle and suffer? If everything has been constructed to benefit white individuals, why is it Asians who, according to American standards, right? You can actually look this up. There's like government documents about it. Why are they the ones who are profiting the most? Like, money wise, the best thing you could be as of a few years ago, from what I was reading of like the jobs and labor report or something, was to basically be like a 40-year-old Asian dude with like a young family, right? So if everything is set to benefit whiteness, whatever the hell that is, then why is it the non-white group that is doing so much better, collectively speaking, than even the white people? Explain how this works.
every part of Wyatt has been distorted or criminalized.
It's really just a bunch of...
The Muslim woman, that's Linda Sarsour, isn't it? I think if it is, may not be, I forget, but I think she looks familiar. But anyway, yes, I understand and I agree that there has been a lot of Islamophobia. I think at least I hope it's died down over the years. But yes, especially after 9/11, there was a lot of Islamophobia, and that was wrong. And there was, we found out eventually that there was, I think it was by the New York City Police Department, that they were spying and listening to conversations. They were spying in mosque and listening to conversations and all that. So yes, I believe that is indeed wrong. I'm not saying that Muslims haven't had it hard, especially in recent years due to 9/11, right? Being painted as the bad guy, right? And being treated with fear because of something that the majority of Muslims uh, did did not endorse. But even with that, like if you're going to talk about your existence or elements of your existence being criminalized, you may want to give an example of that. Because again, I'm not saying things are perfect, but it's not like what the U.S. government did to the Japanese, taking their businesses away, making them live in internment camps, right? Muslims can still live and work in the U.S. as they have been doing for decades now, right? Again, I'm not saying there aren't issues or that there weren't issues. I'm not saying that the response by American society or by the government, local or federal, was always right or fair. I am not saying that at all. I do believe there was and is a problem. But if you're going to talk about how elements of your life or of your culture have been criminalized because of your religion, give some examples. Because I see Muslims as I go about in the city, and I don't see any of them, being treated any better or any worse than people who are not Muslim in New York City. It's not as if all the mosques were like closed down and all the synagogues and churches were left open, but they couldn't worship. That's not what happened.
White lies.
Yes, I do agree that this entire damn trailer is not just white lies, but a pack of lies. And it's meant to give you a very distorted view of race relations between mainly blacks and whites. And I don't believe that this trailer is going to help in any way. I don't believe that it's going to take a nuanced view of how white people have treated other marginalized groups throughout American uh, uh, history, right? So there is that. So let's continue. White America is a great song by Eminem.
You're not patriots. You're ridiculous.
Agreed.
One of the definitions of American whiteness.
Let's go back a second. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, let's focus on this because we all know what she says, right? Right? She says that one of the defining elements of American whiteness is ignorance. Yes, because we're going to define American whiteness by fringe groups because that's fair, that's nuanced, that's the appropriate way to judge millions upon millions of people in the United States. That is certainly the proper way to judge the majority racial group, even with all the growth of the Hispanic community and the Asian community and all that. The US is still about 75% white people. It's a white majority nation. So you want to say that this white majority country, right, that the predominant culture which is again allowing you to make this stupid ass documentary and post this offensive as all hell trailer, if you want to call it that. I call it trash, right? You're gonna say that the predominant culture, the dominant thought, right, is white supremacy. Yet all these white supremacists are allowing you to speak openly and criticize them. Do you actually know anything about white supremacy? Actual white supremacist groups. The Klan used to scare people into silence, intimidate them into silence by murdering people and by burning crosses on lawns. They didn't want people speaking out. So if you're going to claim that the dominant culture of the US is white supremacy, then you have to also explain how the hell you could speak out without consequence.
Definitions of American whiteness is ignorance.
White people, we are not your problem. You are.
Indeed, white people. African Americans are not your problem. The biggest problem most African Americans have today is other African Americans who abide by this grievance culture. So you are indeed correct.
Did white people today feel any responsibility for slavery?
Hell yeah.
Yes, let's hold people who did not grow up with slavery as part of their culture, who have never owned a slave in their lives, whose definition of slave could very well be more sexual in the modern day, to be honest with you, than necessarily literally owning another person as a indentured servant or worker. Yes, let's blame them, for an event that took place in history that they had no say in, and there's nothing in the modern day to indicate that on a dominant or majority level that they ever would have been in favor of it. So yes, let's ask the people who are not slave owners, who've never owned slaves, who don't approve of the practice, right? Not just in the US, but in other countries, right? Also, they're the same race of people who ultimately got rid of slavery and made it illegal and, made it socially unacceptable over time. Let's blame them for something they had no part of because grievance culture. Sure, that makes sense.
White Jesus or black Jesus?
Jesus was not white.
You are correct. Jesus wasn't white. Right? Being that he wasn't European. But he wasn't African either. Nothing in the Bible says that he had African features or was born anywhere near Africa. His parents were not African, right? His mother, right, was not African. So guess what? He wasn't black either. You're complaining about the enduring European artistic depiction of Jesus. No one knows what he looked like. The Bible does not give this, super accurate description of his appearance. Right? Do I think that Jesus looked like, say the whole hippie thing from like Jesus Christ Superstar with the long hair and all that? No. But I don't think he looked like Soul Brother #1 either.
Of geography. Ain't no way Jesus walked around with blonde hair and blue eyes.
White culture fears the end of the world. For us as native people, the end of the world already happened like multiple times.
He makes a point and then he blows it. Let me explain. He's actually correct when he says that for native people, they have experienced the end of their world several times. That's true. That's true not just of North American, sort of Native Americans or Indigenous Americans. That's true of many indigenous groups across the world, right? Sadly, the indigenous tend to be, the ones who are oppressed by the dominant power, right? And the dominant power, depending on the country, isn't always white. For example, it wasn't white people who oppressed the Ainu; it was the Japanese, right? But um, it's true that yes, for Native Americans or for indigenous peoples in general, we have experienced the end of the world several times. But guess what? That's true also for Armenians. That's true for the victims of the Rwandan genocide. That's true for Armenians. That's true for all of the various groups that we know and don't know about that didn't make it to the present day. There are entire countries that no longer exist today, right? European and not European, right? Even groups like the Irish. Why do you think the Irish came to America in droves? The potato famine. It was killing them. So to act like a fear of death, right? Or a fear of genocide or a fear of the end of the world, as he puts it, is somehow wrong, right? Is just insulting. It's human nature to be concerned about the end of the world. How many religions, Christian and not, talk about the end of the world? So while he has a point about, in, indigenous tribes having survived the end of their worlds, he's also being incredibly insulting. That's the biggest problem with this. For the very few times that the trailer actually makes a point, it defeats the point by being dismissive and insulting. And it annoys me.
Symbols and monuments, these are mementos of racism.
Guess what? Guess what? People do not get statues because they were quote unquote morally good individuals. Right? They don't get statues for having progressive views for their day. People get statues made in their memory for their accomplishments. Right? If you look at some of the most accomplished people in human history from any country, you'll often find that as humans, they were pieces of crap typically. Not just from a modern day lens, looking back on people decades ago or even hundreds of years ago, but even in their own day, a lot of people who are remembered or who have statues made in their name were disliked, right? That's the price of greatness, right? You do stuff to be forever remembered, and you're a crappy person usually, right? But here's the thing about the statues. I don't think it's wrong to be offended necessarily by what the statues represent. You have every right to be upset that a statue is made in some person's image, right? If you don't like the statue of MLK or you don't like the statue of Martin Luther King or whomever, you have every right to dislike it. You don't have the right to pull it down, in my opinion. That's the thing. You don't have the right to deface it. But what happens is that when you lead these type of campaigns to get things that you personally find offensive removed, so thine sensitive eyes don't have to look upon this indecent thing, guess what happens? Sooner or later, someone or some group does it to you. And they deface or they remove a statue of somebody you like. For example, I remember, I think it was around November 2020, right? Because the election was going on. I remember seeing a report about a statue of Breonna Taylor um, being defaced, right, in Baltimore. Now, I don't agree with defacing a statue of her, right? The artist, whoever they were, I don't remember, has a right to create a statue of her, and that statue has a right to be displayed. And nobody should be defacing it or trying to mess with it or alter it in any way. But while I don't agree with what people did, I can understand to an extent why it happened. Because other statues, right, that people found offensive or people claimed were racist we're being pulled down. So naturally, somebody sooner or later is gonna go and do it to the other side, right? Here's this victim, of police uh, abuse of force, right, or recklessness in her case, right? Let's deface her statue. Since all these people want to pull down this one, let's go ruin one of theirs. Is it appropriate? Is it right? No, but that's human nature. And that's what happens, right? Eventually, what you do to others gets done to you.
Bring that statue down. Put up a TCU BY yogurt or something. Everybody can get behind.
The truth has to be told about history.
I agree, but I don't think you're the ones to tell it. Your accounting of history is no more objective or truthful than anyone else's. So why should I take your opinion or your word over anyone else's? And it's from the POC POV, because apparently all people of color, and by that what they mean is black. Apparently all black people have had lived the exact same experience, right? Because my experience as a black woman in New York is the same as a black woman in Georgia, is the same as a black woman in California, is the same as a black woman in Alaska, is the same as a black woman in Texas, is the same as a black woman in Florida. Totes the same. We're living the exact same lives. Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure that these stories are told from her perspective.
And what exactly is our perspective? When was there a meeting and when was there a vote taken of what the black perspective is? Because I missed the vote. Nobody told me.
There's always hope. No saying we don't give up.
It's about obliterating systemic.
I agree. There's always hope. But there's only hope if you stop playing the grievance card. There's only hope, both collectively and individually, if you take responsibility for yourself and you make it a point to do better and to be better. If you're not willing to accept you accept the role that you have played in your own downfall or your own destruction, and if all you have is just your grievances against the white man, against the world, against everything, but you won't take responsibility for your own problems, then yeah, you have no hope. Hope begins with accountability, self accountability, and self responsibility. Then you have hope. But if all you're gonna do is just blame everyone else, your hope is gone.
And institutionalized racism.
And if we were talking about maybe even back in the 80s and 90s, maybe I would give you an ear. But please tell me in the modern day how in the world racism is institutionalized or is systemic. We are probably more free than we have ever been. Again, you get to make this completely unopposed, right? So where is the systemic or institutionalized racism? Inequality is not automatically a sign that there's anything racist going on. If you're going to make that claim, then you need to provide proof.
This is a wild place, y'all. It's a wild place. I know Harriet and Frederick be up there just like, what is they gonna do?
I agree, but for the wrong reasons. I do believe that if certain figures like Harriet Tubman or Frederick Douglass or MLK could see, I'll say certain elements of the black community, because again, not a monolith, but I think if they could see, say, the inner city uh, black culture, right, the predominant culture, they would probably go, what are they going to do now? How are they going to squander the gift that I fought and lived and died to give them, right? I think they would probably think to themselves, I did not go through all this in my day just so, your regular average inner city black person could, go to your local bodega run by Muslims, because very few black businesses actually exist in black neighborhoods, right? But go to the Muslim bodega, buy a 40 ounce and a blunt, and spend the day, playing dice or whatever, uh, in front of the entrance of a building in the housing projects, instead of doing something a bit more productive with their lives. So yeah, I do think that there would be a sense of, what was I fighting for, right? So yeah, I do think they would be like, what are they gonna do now? Just not for the right reasons. And again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that is the black culture for all blacks in America, or the experience for all blacks in America. But I think for a lot of inner city black people living in liberal cities like New York and LA and whatnot, probably fairly pretty common sight. So there we go. That's the trailer. That's the incredibly insulting, dismissive, anti-white, racist trailer. And in my opinion, this trailer, although they no doubt don't intend it to be, to me is very anti-black, because all you're showing, or the message it's putting out, is that black people are just, grievance grifters. That black people, all we want to do is just complain and blame the white man for all of our problems. And not only do we want to blame the white man and complain about all our problems, we also want to laugh at their pain, right? Now, fortunately, I don't believe that this is true of the majority of black people, right? The majority of us, I like to believe, are not this callous and cold or grievance merchants, right? A lot of us, have I would say, like a heightened sense of race, right? I believe that's true. But I don't think the bulk of us are like the people displayed here. You see, this is this is not an authentic depiction of quote unquote blackness. This is Hollywood blackness. This is Hollywood blackness, and we're supposed to believe this trailer, that Hollywood blackness is going to speak for the regular, common African American person, or Native American person, right? Or Muslim, or whatever other groups that they cover in the full show. It doesn't. It's not an accurate depiction of a reality that is intensely much more nuanced than they give it credit for. This trailer basically is an insult to intelligence. And if you are an intelligent being, I would humbly suggest not giving this trailer or this show any significant amount of your time. In fact, I have given this trailer nearly 34 minutes of my time, and it's entirely too much. It never deserved more than the 2 minutes 5 seconds, but I do talk too much. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good day or night wherever you are. Bye.